When was the golden age of MMORPGs? Is there an answer that will definitively be okay to everyone? Because usually it differs depending on when a person started to play MMOs, how old they were, and when they jumped into the scene. Of course, there's many other things that go into it and how people view the golden age. So I was thinking, my thought was, could it be possible that we can all share our personal golden age of MMOs? But then I said, well, how can I put this into a video format that could honestly represent what the golden age of MMOs were for everyone? Then it came to me, like all of my other amazing ideas, of course, we go over all of the most innovative MMOs that help us lead ourselves to the point that we are currently at with today's games. I'm not going to include any numbers or statistics to show how individual games grew or how the genre grew or lost popularity to other genres such as MOBAs or indie survival games, because I don't want to persuade anyone, but rather let people share their own opinions. Could the golden age be in the 90s when the MMOs started to pop off, or maybe in the early to mid 2000s when the genre started evolving and really started to take shape? Or could it be with today with all the new MMOs coming out? I'm not sure how to answer where everyone wouldn't feel offended, so I'll let you decide, and I want you to share your thoughts. And what I'm going to do is present a case of features and games from the past that I think have been rather innovative as well as significant to the influence of the genre, and try to go from there. We'll break it down into 3 different time periods or sections, and although I would like to list every single MMO that I could, it's kind of hard to do that. I don't want the video to be just a listing video. So I'll include a couple or a few of the largest and most influential, but I'll leave the rest up to you. I want you to share your most memorable experiences from your time playing MMOs and which games you enjoy the most. Share your experiences with others, and maybe you'll find a couple of other people who enjoyed the same game or had similar moments that were memorable. We are going to kick it off with 1995 to 2001. If you're someone who thinks that the most notable MMOs are the early ones, then here we are showing off a couple that strike a lot of memories, and of course makes us reminisce on the old times. Starting off with Meridian 59 being the first actual MMO when MMOs weren't even a genre. It had many features that games still today have, and actually more. Not only did Meridian 59 do a lot for the genre, but so did Ultima Online, EverQuest, Lineage, Asheron's Call, Dark Ages of Camelot, Runescape, and of course a ton of other MMOs, but these are the ones that are most often the standouts for the genre at the time because they were able to stretch the boundaries while being some of the largest MMOs of their time. Of course, there's other games that have been impactful to the genre and that I'm sure many of you will comment to add to the list, but it is back in the early days that a lot of people didn't have the expectations that we do now. Nowadays, we expect a lot from these companies. These MMOs back in the day were influential to how our current day MMOs are being made, and although there seems to be a ton of backlash about today's MMOs, these games did a good job paving the road for what we have today. It was during this time that in 1997, Richard Garriott was able to coin the phrase MMORPG, along with having the longest running social MMO from Furcadia. And well, a lot of these games actually introduced a lot of features that could still not be seen in some games nowadays. Is this the time that you believe MMORPGs were at its peak? Or was it from 2002 to 2009 when some of the largest to date MMOs were released? Like, wait, let me think. Oh, World of Warcraft, of course. Then we had Aion, Star Wars Galaxies, Guild Wars, EverQuest 2, Lineage 2, Maplestory, and of course, so many more that we can continue to list, but I don't want this video to turn into a listing video, so for that sake, I hope you understand. Nonetheless, there were many sequels that actually followed their successful predecessors in this time, as well as developers and companies starting to understand how the market worked and were able to take huge strides in the form of graphics, gameplay, and communicating with their community. This was the time period where MMOs started coming out of nowhere because companies wanted to try their luck at becoming the largest MMO. And obviously, once World of Warcraft became the #1 spot and took it by absolute storm, it made even more of a mess for these companies. Many of the MMOs that were released at the time are still playable to this day, but have obviously seen a couple of bad times, some dark times, as well as the great and wonderful times. You may have also never heard of a good amount of the MMOs that actually released during this time because there were so many companies trying their chance attempts at creating the so-called wonderful MMO experience for millions to enjoy, but ended up having bad marketing and honestly just a really standard, generic, or straight up really bad game. And therefore, they became very unpopular throughout its entire history, and you probably never heard of it. But by no means does this make the time period worse than the other ones. It just shows that in the early 2000s, it is where the MMO boom began. These games started to release with more features, and the companies behind them, well, they actually started to listen to their community more to see what kind of new features they can implement or focus on that would make the game more enjoyable. It's also a period where in-game events seem to be a little bit different. Nowadays, we see a lot of double XP events and stuff like that. Back in the days, it was more of a game developer would hop into the world and spontaneously start messing around with people, stuff like that. I remember back in WoW Vanilla when they would spawn the big bosses in Orgrimmar and things like that. It was also a time where people could interact with the developers and the publishers a lot more compared to what we see today, where there's kind of a large detachment between game companies and their fans. This time period holds host to the most successful MMO, along with very many other amazing games that have spawned across this time period. Could it be 2010 to 2016, where we are currently at with tons of new MMOs being released every single month, but most of them actually delivering a rather generic experience? Personally, I see a lot of the MMOs releasing now and in the past 5 years actually not showing a whole lot of growth compared to where MMOs were taking themselves from the beginning to about, I don't know, 10 years ago. I understand that it may be harder because back then it was evolving from no genre to the early stages, but nowadays it feels like these companies are either just rushing their release or aren't developing a niche experience for their fans. I feel like the companies are just way too focused on making money, and that's why this pay-to-win conversation has definitely bloomed within the recent years, as we see so many companies implement very debatable items that present unfair advantages. And along with the typical payment models that have definitely come a long way from back in the day, it was just the standard buy the box and subscription-based MMOs. Now we see hybrid plans where you can buy the box for in-game items, you can subscribe for extra benefits, as well as providing purchasable items from the in-game shop known as microtransactions. Have all of these things that I've mentioned make us react negatively to the new games coming out, or is it because it's the company's fault? I don't want to be completely negative towards this time period, so I apologize, as there's still a couple of highlights from games that are still more than enjoyable, such as Rift, Terra, Guild Wars 2, Final Fantasy XIV, Blade and Soul, and like I said before in the beginning, there's many others, but I don't want to keep listing. Of course, there's going to be a lot more games that come out in the future from this date, but I want to say that with these MMOs such as ArcAge and Black Desert and a lot of the Eastern MMOs coming over, there's a converse about the pay to win, and a lot of people really discuss this, so that makes me want to question if the direction that we're going is a positive one or a negative one. So please let me know your thoughts on this. I would like to know if you guys think that the Golden Age has currently hit, have we have already peaked, or if we'll see that in the future. Let me know in the comment section below. Please share your thoughts, and hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, always helps to support, and I'll see you guys in the next one.